TV meteorologist in Rochester, New York, who lost his job after he used a racial slur on air. When he insists was an unintentional slip of the tongue. Happened last Friday. I want you to listen now, and I want you to be the judge for yourself. Watch this.
So when I look out of Martin Luther King Jr. Park.
So that set off a firestorm on social media. The mayor and the city council of Rochester called for his firing after an internal investigation over the...
I think we should get our food to go.
Why? Him?
Seriously, I want to leave.
Jesus Christ.
Dee, stop.
Excuse me? Excuse me. Can I get a picture with you?
Dawn, come on.
Shut up. Hello? Hello? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes.
This fucking...
Sorry. Thanks.
What the hell?
Please come and play with me. I'm so I will show you what I can hide and seek. If you wanna hide, do you wanna play hide and seek? I see a figure behind the wall.
Welcome back, you guys. Mustache Mike back with another video. Annabelle. Anybody hasn't seen Annabelle by now, you're probably living under a rock. But today we're going to be talking about Annabelle. Annabelle is supposedly based on a true story. Then what exactly did happen in Annabelle that made it so true and scary? Today we're going to be discussing the things and real life events that happened in Annabelle according to the witnesses there and that have experienced what happened with them. Now, just a disclaimer, I am by no means saying that these things really did happen. Whether you want to believe it or think it's all mumbo jumbo, it's up to you. I am simply reporting what the events that took place and what experience that people had. You had a wife and a husband by the name of John and Mia that were gifted a porcelain doll that looked hella creepy, and this porcelain doll was possessed and did many weird things out of their presence. She would, for instance, move from room to room. They would hear noises coming from the different room. She would write on small pieces of paper that she would leave behind in pencil crayon. They experienced all these very strange phenomenon and they didn't know what was going on. But the strange activity happened often more and more to the point where it became violent, where the doll would light things on fire and she would try to harm them in any way, shape, or form. Got to the point where it was so bad, which led to them meeting Lorraine and Ed Warren, which took the doll from their possession and told them that this doll was in fact possessed by the devil. It was not the soul of a 7-year-old girl. Now, let us go through the events chronologically to find out what really did happen in the true story of Annabelle and what didn't. Does the Annabelle doll actually look like a creepy porcelain doll that is featured in the movie? No. The Annabelle doll actually was just a normal Raggedy Ann doll that was very common in the 70s. Were John Form and Mia based on real people? The real person was a woman by the name of Donna, who was a nursing student. Donna lived in an apartment with her roommate Angie. Both of them were nursing students. The doll was gifted to Donna by her mother, who had bought it from a hobby store. At the moment of these experiences, you had 3 people that lived in the apartment. There was Donna, Angie, and Angie's fiance Lou. All these facts that will be presented from what was recorded by Ed and Lorraine Warren in terms of the events and the experiences of those 3 individuals in the apartment. Donna, like I mentioned before, came into the possession of the doll through her mom, who had bought it from a hobby store. There was no suspicions regarding the doll and no suspicions regarding its nature. In the movie, Maya and John tried several times to throw the doll away. It would eventually just make its way back without them knowing how. She would end up either in the room or sitting on a chair, and it would just always find her way back. Did this actually happen in real life to Donna? No. According to the movie, these events were written by the Hollywood producers. In the real story with Donna, the events that took place were never so bad to the point where Donna felt like she needed to throw the doll away, hence she never tried to. In the movie, the Annabelle doll would often be seen in different rooms, in different positions, on her own without anybody touching her. Did this really happen? Yes. According to the Warren story, Donna would often come home to find the doll in different positions. She would often find it either sitting on a chair where she wasn't before, or in a different room completely. There was one time where Donna went into the room and she found the doll sitting there, with her arms crossed and her legs folded. According to the interview done by Lorraine and Ed Warren, Donna made the following statement: "I put it on my bed each morning. After the bed was made, the arms would be off to its side and its legs would be straight out, just like it's sitting there now. But when we'd come home at night, the arms and legs would be positioned in a different gesture. For instance, its legs would be crossed at the ankles, or its arms would be folded in its lap. After a week or so, this made us suspicious. So to test it, I purposely crossed its arms and legs in the morning to see if it's really moving. And sure enough, every night when we'd come back home, the arms and legs would be uncrossed, and the thing would be sitting there in any of a dozen different gestures. At times, Donna would leave the doll on the bed, only to find that it's mysteriously migrated to the living room, and was now sitting on the couch with its arms and legs crossed, almost indignantly. In other instances, Donna would leave the doll on the couch only to return home to discover that it was now in her bedroom, with the door latched shut. Angie shed more light on this odd increase in apparently paranormal activity. This doll also changed rooms by itself. We came home one night, and the Annabelle doll was sitting in a chair by the front door. It was kneeling. The funny thing about it was, when we tried to make the doll kneel, it just fell over. It couldn't kneel. Other times we'd find it sitting on the sofa, although when we left the apartment in the morning, it would be sitting in Donna's room with the door closed. In the movie, the Annabelle doll would often leave messages on parchment paper lying everywhere, with words such as, "Miss me." Did this actually happen in real life? According to the story told by Ed and Lorraine Warren, the former owners of the Annabelle doll claimed that they would find pieces of parchment paper lying everywhere, with messages such as, "Help us" and "Help Lou." Lou was the fiance of Angie, who was the roommate of Donna. Now, what was interesting about this fact is Donna never had parchment paper in her apartment. She didn't know where they came from, and often than not, this writing would be written by pencil crayon and it would look like the handwriting of a child. Did blood appear on the Annabelle doll? Yes. During the interview with Ed and Lorraine Warren, Angie made the following statement: "The Annabelle doll was sitting on Donna's bed, as was usual. When we came home one night, there was blood on the back of its hand, and there was 3 drops of blood on its chest." There was no explanation for how the red substance had gotten there. This event is what prompted the doll's owner Donna to contact a medium to help. According to the movie, the owners contacted a medium to try to talk to the doll. Did this actually happen? Yes. Donna did contact a medium to try to figure out what was going on. With all these strange events, she wanted to figure out who was possessing this doll. The medium had performed a seance and told her that a 7-year-old girl who was playing the fields existed where Donna and Angie's apartment complex now stood. Apparently, Annabelle's lifeless body had been discovered in the fields. Did the Annabelle doll inflict any physical harm on any of the members? Yes. Lou, who was the fiance of Angie, had been staying with Angie and Donna since the doll had come into the house. Lou wasn't fond of the doll and warned Donna that it was evil. One night, Lou awoke suddenly from a deep sleep and realized that he was unable to move. He saw the Annabelle doll at his feet and watched as it slowly glided up his leg and over his chest. Before he knew it, the doll had begun to strangle him until he blacked out. He woke up the next morning, certain that his experience wasn't a dream. On a later occasion, Lou and Angie were studying maps to prepare for a trip Lou was embarking on the next day, and then he heard a rustling noise coming from Donna's room. Lou approached the closed door and waited for the noise to stop before entering. He entered on the light and saw Annabelle lying on the floor in the corner. He walked over to the doll, but as he did, he began to sense that someone was behind him. He spun around, but no one was there. In an instant, he found himself doubled over, grabbed his chest, which was now bleeding. Upon inspection, he discovered 7 claw-like scratches on his chest, 4 horizontal and 3 vertical, that were hot like burns. The scratches healed rapidly and were fully gone within 2 days. How did Ed and Lorraine Warren come to the possession of this doll? After the incident that happened with Lou, Donna knew that she had to do something about this doll. She didn't want it back at the apartment any longer. She had contacted a priest. The Episcopal priest named Father Hagen contacted a superior, Father Cook, who immediately got in touch with Ed and Lorraine and told them about this doll. When questioned by the Warrens as to why the roommates had kept the doll for so long, they insisted that they believed that it belonged to a soul of a young girl named Annie, and they thought that she, being a little girl that passed away when she was young, was lonely and was just looking for company. The Warrens went on to say, "To begin with, there is no Annabelle. There never was. You are duped. However, you are dealing with a spirit here. The teleportation of the doll while you are out of the apartment, the appearance of notes written on parchment, the manifestation of 3 symbols, drops of blood, plus the gestures the dolls made were all meaningful. They tell me there was an intent, which means there was an intelligence behind the activity. But ghosts, human spirits, plain and simple, can't bring on phenomena of this nature and intensity. They don't have the power. At this point, Lou interjected and told them, "It's a damn voodoo doll, that's what it is. I told them about the thing a long time ago. The doll was just taking advantage of them." Nevertheless, Donna and Angie began to defend the doll, saying that they really did believe it belonged to a young girl named Annabelle, and that she was looking for comfort and company. The Warrens went on to say, "What was happened is something inhuman has taken over here. Demonic. Ordinary people aren't bothered by inhuman demonic spirits, unless they do something to bring the force into their lives. Your first mistake was to give the doll recognition. That is the reason why the spirit moved into the doll to draw attention to itself. Once it had your attention, it exploited you. It simply brought you fear and even injury. Inhuman spirits enjoy inflicting pain. It's negative. Your next mistake was calling in a medium. The demonic had to somewhat get your permission to interfere in your life. Unfortunately, through your own free will, you gave it that permission, adding to the shock of the free friends we're no doubt experiencing at the moment." The Warrens went on to insist that following Lou's attack, the demon's next move would be to exit Annabelle and enter one of them for the purposes of complete human possession, followed almost inevitably by murder, according to Ed Warren. Spirits don't possess things. Spirits possess people. Instead, the spirit simply moved the doll around and gave it the illusion of being alive. Now, what happened to Lou earlier this week was bound to occur sooner or later. In fact, you all were in jeopardy of coming under possession by the spirit. This is what the thing was really after. The Warrens convinced Father Cook that to perform an exorcism on the apartment in order to cleanse the home. He also blessed the individuals who were there. At Donna's request, the Warrens took the Raggedy Ann doll with them and they departed. It has been in their possession ever since. If you guys want to visit this Annabelle doll, it is still available on display in the Occult Museum, owned by Ed and Lorraine Warren. Just make sure when you go, you don't piss her off like Lou did. Lou was a jerk, and he deserved what happened to him. I am kidding. Thank you guys, by Mustache Ghost and Mustache Demon. Just kidding. I'm joking. Make sure to subscribe to watch more videos like this. If you like my voice this low and deep, then make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. If not, Annabelle will come to your house and she will be watching you from a distance and she will get you when you're sleeping. Beware, beware, beware. Alright, goodbye everybody. Thank you.